We live in a world that often tells us to be happy, as if happiness is the only acceptable emotion. But today, I want to challenge that idea. I want to talk about something we don't often celebrate: unhappiness, and why it's not only natural, but also essential to success. Think about it. What drives innovation, change, and personal growth? It's not comfort. It's dissatisfaction. It's the feeling that something isn't right, that there must be more meaning, more progress, a better way. Unhappiness is a signal. It tells us that we need to pay attention. It pushes us out of complacency and into action. When we feel unhappy, we reflect, we analyze, and we adapt. Many of the world's most successful people, inventors, artists, entrepreneurs, didn't get there by chasing happiness. They got there by facing discomfort, by enduring failure, and by wrestling with dissatisfaction. So today, I encourage you to stop fearing unhappiness. Instead, learn to see it as a tool, a compass, a motivator. Because often, it's in our most uncomfortable moments that we grow the most. Unhappiness is often viewed as a negative state, something to be avoided or suppressed. However, when we stop running from it and instead sit with the discomfort it brings, we uncover one of its most powerful qualities, the ability to spark deep reflection. Unlike the fleeting contentment of comfort or the distractions of constant busyness, unhappiness commands our attention. It interrupts our routine and demands that we ask ourselves tough questions. It asks, why am I feeling this way? What is missing? Or what needs to change? This inner dialogue is the first step toward understanding ourselves on a much deeper level. When everything is going well, we rarely stop to analyze the path we're on. In moments of happiness or success, we are swept along by momentum. But when unhappiness strikes, when we feel dissatisfied, restless, or even lost, we're forced to pause. These moments can feel uncomfortable, even painful, but they are essential. They strip away illusions and reveal what we've been ignoring. That job that pays well but leaves us unfulfilled, that relationship that looks perfect on the outside but feels empty, that routine that keeps us stable but not alive, unhappiness brings these hidden truths into the light. Reflection born from unhappiness is often deeper and more honest than any reflection sparked by joy. That's because unhappiness exposes vulnerabilities. It shakes the foundations of our assumptions and beliefs. When we feel unhappy, we begin to question what we once accepted without hesitation. We ask ourselves whether we're living our values, whether our goals are truly ours or borrowed from others, and whether our definition of success aligns with who we really are. This kind of reflection is not superficial, it's transformative. Moreover, unhappiness helps us identify disconnects in our lives. Perhaps our work doesn't align with our passions. Maybe our social life is active, but lacks real connection. Or we might realize we've been neglecting our mental or physical well-being. In the stillness that unhappiness brings, these misalignments become impossible to ignore, and once they're seen clearly, they can be addressed. Without that moment of discomfort, we might never have recognized them at all. It's important to recognize that reflection isn't a passive process, it's active and often messy. It requires courage to confront the reasons behind our unhappiness. It means being willing to feel what we usually avoid. This process can bring up fear, regret, or sadness, but it's also the birthplace of clarity. As we peel back the layers, we start to see patterns, behaviors that no longer serve us, environments that stifle us, relationships that drain us. These realizations are the seeds of change. For many, this journey inward is the first step toward redefining success. Society may have taught us that success looks like wealth, fame, or external achievement. But through the lens of unhappiness and the reflection it provokes, we often come to a different conclusion. We may begin to see success as peace of mind, meaningful work, strong relationships, or personal growth. In this way, unhappiness not only reflects what's wrong, it guides us toward what's right, what matters. Unhappiness also sharpens our self-awareness. By spending time in reflection, we become more attuned to our emotional landscape. We learn what triggers our discontent, what energizes us, and what depletes us. This awareness is powerful because it gives us the tools to make intentional decisions. It empowers us to set boundaries, to say no to what doesn't serve us, and to move toward a life that feels aligned rather than imposed. In this sense, unhappiness is not a sign of failure, it's a signal. It alerts us that something is out of sync, not to punish us, but to wake us up. It's a form of inner wisdom, often overlooked in a culture obsessed with constant positivity, but when we listen to it, when we allow it to guide us into reflection, we gain the insight necessary to course correct. And through this process, we don't just return to happiness, we move toward a more authentic, meaningful, and sustainable version of success. Unhappiness, though often uncomfortable, is one of the most powerful motivators for change. It serves as a psychological alarm system, alerting us when something in our lives isn't working. While happiness may make us complacent, unhappiness disrupts our inertia. It forces us to look closely at our habits, routines, relationships, and choices. It breaks the illusion of contentment and stirs a sense of urgency, an inner call to transform, adjust, or evolve. Without this discomfort, we might remain stuck in situations that no longer serve us, simply because they feel familiar or safe. The feeling of unhappiness often begins subtly, a nagging restlessness, a sense of dissatisfaction, or a lack of excitement for the things that used to bring us joy. These sensations, while easy to brush off, are often the early indicators that change is needed. Over time, if ignored, these feelings intensify. What starts as mild discontent can grow into burnout, depression, or a deep sense of emptiness. But rather than being feared, these experiences should be seen as the body and mind's natural way of saying, "It's time to shift." They push us to reconsider our priorities, reevaluate our direction, and sometimes reinvent ourselves entirely. Many people describe life, changing moments, as being born from their lowest points. This isn't a coincidence, it's a pattern. When life is going smoothly, there's little incentive to take risks or step outside our comfort zones. But when we're unhappy, the pain of staying the same starts to outweigh the fear of change. In those moments, change becomes not only appealing but necessary. People leave toxic relationships, quit unfulfilling jobs, move to new places, go back to school, or pursue long, ignored dreams not because they are happy, but because unhappiness gave them the push they needed. The power of unhappiness lies in its ability to create momentum. While change is often scary, unhappiness builds emotional pressure. That pressure becomes a driving force, giving us the strength to take bold actions we might otherwise avoid. It turns maybe someday into "I need to do this now." This is especially true when we begin to see that the cost of not changing is too great. Whether it's compromising our mental health, stifling our growth, or wasting our potential, unhappiness forces us to confront the consequences of inaction. Moreover, change initiated by unhappiness is often more intentional. It comes from deep internal evaluation rather than external influence. We don't change because someone told us to, or because it looks good on paper. We change because something within us is no longer willing to accept the status quo. This kind of change tends to be more meaningful and lasting because it's rooted in personal truth. It's not just about rearranging circumstances, it's about redefining who we are and what we want out of life. Unhappiness also teaches us the importance of agency. When we recognize that we have the power to respond to our discomfort, we begin to feel less like victims of circumstance and more like active participants in our lives. We realize that while we may not control everything that happens to us, we do control how we respond. This mindset shift is crucial. It transforms unhappiness from a passive state of suffering into a catalyst for empowerment and choice. Furthermore, the changes prompted by unhappiness often have a ripple effect. One small decision, such as setting a boundary, speaking up, or making a plan, can trigger a series of positive shifts in our lives. We may find ourselves surrounded by more supportive people, experiencing increased energy, or discovering new opportunities. It all starts with the courage to listen to our unhappiness and respond with action. That first step, however small, can mark the beginning of an entirely new chapter. Finally, unhappiness and the change it inspires often lead to growth that cannot be achieved through comfort alone. It teaches resilience, adaptability, and self-reliance. It helps us discover what we truly value and forces us to become more authentic in how we live. While the process may be painful, the result is often a life that feels more aligned, purposeful, and fulfilling. Change may begin in darkness, but through that darkness we often find the clearest vision of who we want to become. Pain, particularly emotional pain, has long been a source of inspiration for human creativity. Across cultures and throughout history, countless artists, writers, musicians, and thinkers have drawn from their personal struggles to create powerful works that resonate deeply with others. Unhappiness opens a well of emotion that, when expressed creatively, becomes not only a form of catharsis for the creator, but also a bridge of empathy for the audience. This transformative quality of pain, its ability to be reshaped into beauty, insight, and innovation, is what makes it such a potent driver of creativity. When we are happy, our minds tend to rest in contentment. There is little motivation to probe the depths of our experiences or to question our emotions, but pain unsettles that stillness. It invites introspection, asking us to examine our inner world and give form to what often feels inexpressible. In this way, unhappiness gives us access to emotional and psychological depths that are otherwise left untouched. It compels us to find ways to articulate grief, anger, longing, and fear, all complex emotions that require nuance and imagination to convey. Creativity thrives under emotional intensity. When we are unhappy, we often feel compelled to make sense of our pain, and creative expression becomes one of the most powerful tools to do so. Writing, painting, music, dance, and other forms of art allow us to externalize our inner experiences. This process not only helps us cope, but often leads to the creation of work that speaks to the universal human condition. In trying to express our personal pain, we inadvertently tap into collective truths, making our art more relatable and impactful. Some of the greatest works in history were born from anguish and inner turmoil. Vincent van Gogh's haunting paintings, Sylvia Plath's searing poetry, and Frida Kahlo's vivid self-portraits were all rooted in personal suffering. These artists did not shy away from their pain. They embraced it, examined it, and allowed it to shape their creative voice. Their unhappiness became a source of vision and originality. This is not to romanticize suffering, but rather to acknowledge that creativity often requires a confrontation with our most difficult emotions. In times of unhappiness, we may also feel disconnected from the external world, which paradoxically creates space for deeper connection with our inner world. This internal focus can be fertile ground for creativity. Removed from the distractions of everyday contentment, we are left with our thoughts, our memories, and our questions. In this solitude, ideas begin to take shape. We reflect more deeply, see things in new ways, and begin to piece together meaning through metaphor, imagery, and narrative. Furthermore, pain disrupts our usual patterns of thinking. It challenges our assumptions and encourages us to look at the world differently. This break from convention is a crucial component of creative thinking. When we are in pain, we often seek alternative solutions, fresh perspectives, and new modes of expression, not just to escape our suffering, but to understand it. This openness to new ways of seeing and being is at the heart of creative innovation, whether in art, literature, music, or even science and technology. Another key aspect of pain-driven creativity is vulnerability. Unhappiness softens the ego, revealing a raw, unfiltered version of ourselves. When we create from this place, our work becomes more authentic. It is not polished to perfection, but instead brims with honesty and emotional truth. This authenticity is what allows others to connect so deeply with creative works born of pain. People don't just see or hear the art, they feel it. They recognize themselves in it, and that recognition can be healing. Lastly, creativity offers a sense of control in the midst of emotional chaos. When we are unhappy, life can feel overwhelming and unpredictable. Creating anything gives us agency. It allows us to take the chaos and turn it into something tangible, structured, and meaningful. This act of creation is empowering. It reminds us that even in our lowest moments, we still have the power to contribute, to communicate, and to create something that didn't exist before. And in doing so, we not only make sense of our pain, but often discover a renewed sense of purpose. Discomfort is often viewed as something to avoid, a signal that something is wrong or that we're headed in the wrong direction. But in reality, discomfort is one of the most effective teachers of resilience. It challenges our emotional, mental, and even physical limits, forcing us to adapt, persist, and grow stronger. Resilience isn't built in moments of ease and certainty. It's forged in the trials that test our patience, endurance, and character. When we experience unhappiness and discomfort, we are unknowingly being trained to withstand life's inevitable storms. Think about the human body. Muscles grow stronger when they are pushed beyond their current capabilities through resistance. The same principle applies to our emotional and mental fortitude. Each time we experience pain, disappointment, or failure and choose to get back up, we reinforce our ability to endure. Unhappiness, while difficult in the moment, becomes a kind of emotional weightlifting. With every challenge faced, our resilience grows. Over time, we become more capable of handling adversity without being overwhelmed by it. One of the most powerful aspects of discomfort is that it reveals what we're capable of. Many people discover their strength not during times of success, but when everything seems to be falling apart. It is in the midst of grief, heartbreak, or hardship that we find resources within ourselves we didn't know existed. These moments redefine us. They reshape how we see ourselves and what we believe we can survive. This inner strength born from uncomfortable experiences becomes the backbone of our resilience and the foundation for future achievements. Discomfort also teaches us how to manage fear. Unhappiness often stems from fear of failure, rejection, loneliness, or uncertainty. But when we repeatedly face discomfort and survive it, fear begins to lose its grip on us. We learn that even when things go wrong, we can recover. We begin to see fear as a passing state, not a permanent reality. This mindset shift is critical. It gives us the courage to take risks, pursue growth, and face life head on without being paralyzed by the potential for discomfort or pain. Moreover, navigating through periods of unhappiness requires us to develop coping mechanisms, emotional intelligence, and psychological strategies. We learn how to regulate our emotions, how to ask for help, and how to take care of ourselves when times get tough. These skills are vital not just for personal well-being, but also for success in any professional or social setting. People who are resilient tend to remain calm under pressure, think clearly in difficult situations, and recover quickly from setbacks, all traits that are highly valued in leadership and achievement-oriented environments. Resilience built through discomfort also fosters patience and long-term thinking. When we face challenges and push through them, we start to understand that worthwhile goals often require time, effort, and perseverance. We stop looking for quick fixes and start embracing the journey, however difficult it may be. This shift in perspective is transformative. It helps us stay focused and committed to our visions even when progress is slow or obstacles arise. We learn to trust the process, knowing that struggle is not a sign of failure, but a natural part of growth. Discomfort can also build empathy, which is an often overlooked aspect of resilience. When we go through hard times, we become more attuned to the struggles of others. We begin to understand pain not just as a personal experience, but as a shared human condition. This awareness strengthens our relationships, enhances our leadership abilities, and broadens our sense of compassion. A resilient person is not just strong, they are understanding. They have walked through fire and are more willing to help others find their way through it, too. Finally, experiencing discomfort regularly can help normalize failure and imperfection, which are essential components of resilience. When we're constantly chasing happiness or perfection, any setback feels catastrophic. But when we accept discomfort as a natural and necessary part of life, we become less afraid of falling short. We learn that every mistake is a lesson, every loss is temporary, and every challenge is a chance to come back stronger. In this way, discomfort doesn't just build resilience, it redefines success. It teaches us that thriving doesn't mean avoiding hardship, but learning how to rise through it. Unhappiness, though often seen as a purely negative emotion, plays a critical role in sharpening our problem-solving abilities. When we are content, we tend to coast. Comfort discourages curiosity. It removes the pressure to question our surroundings or seek better alternatives. But when unhappiness creeps in, whether it comes in the form of frustration, discontent, or confusion, it acts as a mental alert system. It signals that something in our lives is off balance, and it pushes us to ask, what's wrong, and how can I fix it? This questioning is the foundation of effective problem solving. At its core, problem solving is a response to discomfort. We solve problems because we want to remove a source of tension or pain. When we're unhappy with our career, we start thinking about switching jobs or developing new skills. When we're unsatisfied with a relationship, we analyze communication patterns or reassess compatibility. In this way, unhappiness becomes a source of energy, not a passive state, but an active, motivating force that encourages us to identify what's broken and find ways to repair it. One of the most important things unhappiness does is force us to slow down and observe. We begin paying attention to the patterns that contribute to our discomfort. Are we overwhelmed because of poor time management? Are we stressed because we're trying to please everyone at our own expense? These questions arise not in moments of bliss, but in the quiet unease of dissatisfaction. Through this introspection, we're able to pinpoint root causes rather than just address symptoms, leading to more sustainable solutions. Additionally, unhappiness encourages us to think creatively. The need to escape or resolve an unpleasant situation forces us to look at our circumstances from multiple angles. We begin to entertain possibilities we hadn't previously considered. We might develop unconventional ideas, explore paths we had dismissed, or reconsider values we once took for granted. Some of the most innovative solutions in history have emerged not from inspiration alone, but from urgent dissatisfaction with the status quo, from a deep, driving sense that there must be a better way. This process is particularly true in the realm of invention and entrepreneurship. Many successful companies and technologies were born from someone's frustration. The inconvenience of something in everyday life became the spark for a new product or system. Think of how Uber emerged from frustration with unreliable taxis, or how countless apps were built to solve mundane yet nagging life problems. Unhappiness drives people to fill gaps, improve processes, and create value, all of which start with identifying a problem and seeking a solution. Moreover, problem solving fueled by unhappiness is often more focused and urgent. When something makes us miserable, we don't procrastinate indefinitely. The discomfort makes the need for resolution feel immediate and non-negotiable. This intensity can lead to periods of deep concentration and productivity where we devote ourselves entirely to fixing what's wrong. The pain becomes fuel, and the urgency transforms our mindset from passive to proactive. We stop tolerating what doesn't work and start envisioning and building what could. Unhappiness also enhances our ability to think critically. It prompts us to question assumptions we might otherwise accept without hesitation. When we feel uneasy, we are more likely to scrutinize our routines, beliefs, and systems. This skepticism isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It allows us to refine our understanding of problems and avoid superficial solutions. We weigh pros and cons more carefully, consider potential consequences, and engage more fully in the process of decision making. In this way, unhappiness doesn't just trigger problem. Solving it improves the quality of the solutions we generate. Lastly, solving problems that arise from our own unhappiness gives us a sense of agency and control. It reminds us that while we may not be able to avoid discomfort entirely, we can respond to it constructively. This realization is empowering. We begin to see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities to learn and evolve. And every time we face our unhappiness head on and find a way through it, we become more confident in our ability to do it again. Our self-trust grows, and with it, our capacity to navigate even more complex problems in the future. Unhappiness has a unique ability to strip away distractions and reveal what truly matters. When everything is going well, it's easy to get caught up in the noise, chasing trends, seeking external validation, or pursuing goals that look good on paper but don't resonate internally. However, when unhappiness sets in, our internal compass activates. Suddenly, the things we once thought were important begin to feel hollow, and what truly matters begins to surface with startling clarity. This discomfort becomes a filter through which we reevaluate our lives and our choices. Often, we don't realize how misaligned we are with our values until we feel unhappy. We may be climbing a career ladder that doesn't fulfill us, maintaining relationships that drain us, or spending time and energy on pursuits that don't reflect who we are. Unhappiness brings those contradictions to light. It exposes the tension between what we do and what we believe in. This awareness, though painful, is also a gift. It forces us to confront the disconnect and ask ourselves if the life we're living is one we truly want. In times of deep unhappiness, our priorities naturally shift. We begin to crave authenticity, meaning, and connection. Things that once seemed urgent social status, material possessions, superficial accolades begin to fade in significance. Instead, we start to value peace, purpose, love, and well-being. This shift isn't theoretical, it's felt at a gut level. When we're hurting, we seek what soothes our soul, not what flatters our ego. It is through this process that we start to align our actions with our deepest needs and values. This clarity often leads to profound life changes. People quit high-paying jobs to pursue meaningful work. They leave relationships that no longer serve them. They set boundaries, start new habits, and let go of toxic influences. These decisions are not made lightly, but they are made deliberately, and more often than not, they are made at the height of personal discomfort. The dissatisfaction becomes impossible to ignore, and the clarity it brings becomes too strong to dismiss. Unhappiness, in this way, acts as a catalyst for intentional living. Moreover, unhappiness forces us to prioritize our mental and emotional health. When life is smooth, we might take our well-being for granted, pushing through stress or ignoring signs of burnout. But when we're deeply unhappy, we can't ignore those warning signals anymore. We are compelled to examine how we treat ourselves. Are we getting enough rest? Are we surrounding ourselves with supportive people? Are we practicing self-compassion? These questions become central, and the answers shape how we restructure our lives going forward. Unhappiness also strengthens our decision-making skills. With a clearer understanding of what matters, we become more decisive and less swayed by outside opinions. We stop making choices to please others or to maintain appearances. Instead, we make decisions rooted in personal truth. This kind of clarity not only helps us move forward with confidence, but also creates a sense of integrity. Our actions begin to reflect who we are, not just who we think we should be, and that alignment fosters inner peace and purpose. In a culture that often equates success with busyness and achievement, unhappiness can feel like failure, but in reality, it's often the first sign that we're waking up, that we're beginning to question whether the path we're on is actually right for us. This questioning is powerful. It leads us to identify the few things that really matter and to let go of the rest. Life is finite, and unhappiness reminds us of that fact. It pushes us to be more intentional with our time, energy, and focus, to live by design, not by default. Finally, unhappiness teaches us the value of simplicity. When we're overwhelmed or emotionally exhausted, we naturally seek to declutter not just our homes or calendars, but our lives. We stop multitasking every aspect of our day and start focusing on what brings us meaning. We reconnect with quiet joys, with people who truly care, and with passions we had long buried under the weight of obligation. In doing so, we find that clarity and simplicity are deeply intertwined. And it all begins with the unsettling yet necessary experience of unhappiness pulling us back to what truly matters. Unhappiness, though uncomfortable, serves as a mirror reflecting our deepest truths. When we're constantly surrounded by positivity or distractions, it's easy to lose touch with ourselves. We operate on autopilot, driven by routines and societal expectations. But unhappiness interrupts that cycle. It forces us to pause, reflect, and ask difficult questions. Why am I feeling this way? What am I missing? What have I been ignoring? This introspection marks the beginning of self-awareness, a vital component not just of personal development, but of long-term success and fulfillment. In moments of unhappiness, we begin to examine the origins of our emotions. Instead of dismissing our feelings or numbing them through external comforts, we start peeling back the layers of our experiences. We look at patterns, the situations that repeatedly drain us, the types of people that trigger our insecurities, the goals that no longer excite us. This process of analysis, however painful, reveals our inner landscape, our fears, desires, habits, and unresolved wounds. We begin to understand not only what we feel, but why we feel it, and this insight is powerful. This deepening of self-awareness fosters emotional intelligence. When we become attuned to our inner world, we're better equipped to manage our emotions, respond instead of react, and recognize the emotional currents in others. Unhappiness teaches us to sit with discomfort rather than escape it, to feel without judgment. Over time, this leads to greater self-regulation and empathy. It enables us to navigate conflict more gracefully, build healthier relationships, and lead with authenticity traits that are foundational to both personal and professional success. Moreover, unhappiness sheds light on our unmet needs. We often go through life fulfilling obligations and chasing external achievements, unaware that key aspects of our inner life are being neglected. Maybe it's a need for rest, meaningful connection, creative expression, or freedom. Unhappiness acts as a signal that these needs aren't being met. By listening to that signal instead of silencing it, we start to uncover what truly nourishes us. This awareness leads to more intentional choices in our careers, our friendships, and our daily routines. Another important element of self-awareness that arises from unhappiness is confronting our self-limiting beliefs. When we're feeling low, we often uncover hidden scripts. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve success. I'll always fail. These beliefs are usually formed early in life and go unnoticed when things are going smoothly. But in times of hardship, they rise to the surface. While this can be distressing, it also gives us a chance to challenge and rewrite these narratives. Doing so frees us from mental chains that have held us back, sometimes for years. Unhappiness also highlights the gap between our current life and our ideal self. It reveals the tension between who we are and who we want to be. This is a vital realization. Without it, we remain stuck comfortable, perhaps, but unfulfilled. When we're unhappy, we begin to yearn for change, to bridge that gap. We start identifying what kind of person we want to become, what kind of life we want to lead. That vision becomes clearer, not despite our unhappiness, but because of it. In this way, our dissatisfaction becomes a map pointing toward growth. This process of self-discovery, born from unhappiness, also brings humility. It shows us that we are not invincible or immune to struggle. We are human, flawed, complex, and ever-changing, and that realization fosters compassion, not only for ourselves, but for others. We stop pretending that everything is fine and begin to accept ourselves as we are. This acceptance, ironically, often leads to genuine improvement. We change not from a place of shame, but from a desire to honor who we truly are and what we truly need. Finally, deep self-awareness cultivated through unhappiness can become a compass for future decisions. It becomes easier to say no to what doesn't align and yes to what does. We no longer chase goals simply because others do. Instead, we make choices rooted in clarity, authenticity, and purpose. We begin to live from the inside out, driven not by external validation, but by a profound understanding of who we are and what we value. And while this journey may begin in discomfort, the self-awareness it yields becomes one of the most enduring tools for personal success. In a world that relentlessly pursues happiness, we often forget that it is through our lowest points that we gain the highest wisdom. Unhappiness, uncomfortable as it may be, is not our enemy, it is our teacher, our compass, and often the very soil in which our success begins to grow. It shakes us out of complacency. It asks the questions we've been too afraid to ask. It builds the resilience we never knew we had and reveals the truth we've long ignored. Success is not the absence of unhappiness, but the mastery of what it teaches us. Every moment of doubt sharpens our clarity. Every disappointment deepens our character. Every failure becomes the raw material for future breakthroughs. Unhappiness strips away the superficial, leaving behind only what is real, what is needed, and what is truly worth fighting for. So, the next time you find yourself in a difficult season, don't run from it, don't numb it, sit with it, listen to it, learn from it, because buried within that pain is the power to transform not only your circumstances, but also your entire path. The truth is, the road to success is paved not with constant joy, but with moments of struggle that shape who we become. Let your unhappiness be the spark that leads to your growth, your clarity, your resilience, and ultimately, your greatest success. Thank you.